Talk of Central Illinois, News Talk WTIM. I host AgriTalk, the nation's longest-running interview show dedicated to discussing agriculture issues with the newsmakers and include you in the conversation via our toll-free number. We're here weekdays mornings at 10:06. We are AgriTalk.
Your information station, WTIM.
Good morning. You're listening to WTIM, your information station, and our morning show brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman. Joining me in this segment is Chief Deputy Jim Baker of the Christian County Sheriff's Office. Good morning to you, Jim. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Good to be back.
It's always glad to have you here in studio and helping me out with some trivia every once in a while as well. But today we're going to get our start on what took place in the month of March. And some activity updates. Where do you want to take me with that?
Yeah. So as usual, like you said, we like to do a recap, and the numbers pretty much stayed consistent with most of these items. We had 30 incidents reports generated, 5 criminal arrests, 4 major traffic arrests to include some suspended and revoked drivers. The deputies made an attempt at 74 paper services, served 67 of those, and done 64 vacation, building patrol, extra patrol request location checks. And the only one that was really down was they responded to only 12 vehicle crashes. So it's always good to see those numbers drop. Of course, in the spring, the deer, the weather, all those things that contribute to those crashes help us out on that end. One of the big things that we had was a large narcotics arrest that took place in Pana with the U.S. Postal Service and our Illinois State Police SIG task force member. So, and as in addition to that, the investigator Telford helped with Deputy Rexroad, and they worked real well together with the Postal Service, and it was a pretty big pinch between some meth being sent through the mail. So.
One question for you quickly here. Mm-hmm. 74 paper services. Is that eviction notices?
That's going to include all your summonses, eviction notices, subpoenas for court, anything, financial papers, tax papers, anything to do that's filed through the circuit clerk's office. It's our responsibility to serve those. So on top of answering calls, we still have a large basket of papers in about every village or city throughout the county. So they still have to get those served, all while trying to, squeeze in the other daily operations.
Sure. Well, maybe that would be extra patrol or whatever the case might be.
Yep.
So 67 of them being successful, by my math, and I'm not good at it, mm-hmm. 7 of them unsuccessful.
Yep.
How does that work? So let's say I don't get it handed to me. How does that process go?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So what happens is the court will send over any type of paper service, whether it be summons or a financial appearance for court. And we'll put on there, if you're trying to evict somebody, there's a place on there for them to mark attempts. And then that individual pays the sheriff's fee for the attempts. It's one cost for X amount of attempts. And then if the paper is actually successful, then there's a fee associated by statute that the sheriff's office receives. It actually goes into the general fund of the county that basically on a successful paper, they pay that fee. And so in the event that we are unsuccessful, it will show 3 attempts and it's about half cost. It goes back to the attorney or the landlord or anybody, and they pay a partial fee to attempt to serve that paper. So it is a big battle. There's times where we get so busy and we get behind, and then we have to double up and say, hey, we've got dates that we watch. It's typically got a die date of 2 weeks to a month to try and serve them, and we go through and they'll try and serve those papers during the day. Sometimes we'll send the night shift out, and if it's a really a paper of importance, subpoena for court or something, we'll even go at midnight and knock on the door. So
that would personally not be a knock that I would want on my door, but I'm glad that out of all those, only 7 of them being unsuccessful. That's a pretty good return rate on those.
That's they put a lot of effort into that to get those done. So
if you don't mind, Chief Baker, can we double down on the narcotics arrest with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service? Is that something that the U.S. Postal Service is keying you in on? or is that something you are actively tracking and then have to bring to their attention? How does that kind of relationship go?
So each one of those are different, and like I said, without getting into too many details, obviously, a show of hand to how we do that. But basically, it could be in conjunction with both the Postal Service may reach out to us and flag it, and other times it's through the narcotics investigations that we have task force members that will get information on that, or it will lead back to that, and then it may be us reaching out to the Postal Service, and then it's a combined effort to follow and see where that goes. And it's really no secret on some of it. You've got times where the Postal Service probably has I know of in their large hubs they've got narcotic dogs that walk the packages. Then of course they've got the authority to open it, reseal it, and then they track that package that way. And it's kind of rare to see that. It's one of those things that people don't do a whole lot of it, but we do monitor it, and we get information fed to us through tip lines. Hey, we've had one that we followed up on where somebody sent a tip on the app. Hey, I know of XYZ. I don't want to get involved. And then so we'll take it and run with it and see where we end up, from there.
Work on the back end basically, and then making sure that is what is actually taking place, then getting folks involved. And I appreciate you kind of taking me through it, just because that's the first
and just real quick, you take your investigators and your task force member and stuff like that. It's not as easy as, it might be where they sit and do surveillance on that I know in this one we had hours, days on end to wait for that package, probably that person being skittish or whatever, but we spend multiple hours invested in that to sit and wait and watch for it. So you've got to be there during those operation times to try and, catch them with the actual package coming out of the post office.
Probably an important piece of it, them actually picking it up.
Sure.
If it was just left there, then probably all types of technicalities and different
things.
Yeah,
you don't want to have something where somebody sends it to, if I was doing that and send it to your address, the package might be what we would call stale, where it just sits, where nobody picks it up, or for whatever reason they get wind of it or have second thoughts and they just don't go pick the package up. So,
well, again, that's not something that I would like to be involved with. And so let's turn to something that I was involved with a long time ago. Not too crazy long, but a mock DUI crash down in Pana.
Yes.
This was a big deal for you, and also for those students and for those kids. You'd mentioned something in our story that kind of stuck with me. It was the attention span piece, that you had them engaged. You had them right there. Yep. Take me through the mock DUI crash, what you saw from the students, their reactions, and just how beneficial it probably was.
Yeah. So from start to finish, we get a couple crashed cars through a junkyard, stage them up. There's a company or an organization called Think First that will come down, go over. We get volunteers from the students, the teachers, the faculty, and everybody has a role in that. They go as far as putting realistic makeup and injuries on these individuals. It's very dramatic in the presentation, a lot of screaming and hollering. They try and make it as real as a traffic crash as possible. So then what they do is they make an actual real phone call to 911, and the whole time it's going on, my role in that was to be the narrator, explain to the students what was going on. Now this is what's taking place with calling 911. This is why they're asking these multitude of questions in the event of a disconnect on the phone. And then what they'll do is they will roll it out just like they do of fire and EMS. You have at that location, we had the Pana Police and Fire there, Echo EMS, Air Vac with the helicopter landed, the Christian County Coroner, the State Police, the Sheriff's Office, and of course the local media was there to help get the message out that we're trying to educate the kids. So what will happen is they'll roll the police and fire, ambulance, and then at the same time they'll loading the actors up into an ambulance, all along with a helicopter landing, putting one in the helicopter, flying him to the pad at the hospital. They make it as realistic as possible to drive home the devastating effects of a DUI crash. At the end of the mock crash, they actually pull the teenage driver out. They run him through field sobriety and treat it just as if they were impaired and then arrest. And then after that, and so the entire time when you watch students, a lot of them's got a phone in their hand or they're giggling and talking, and you just see a whole different aspect of this when they're actually seeing what's going on. To start it with, the entire scene's covered with tarps. They reveal it, and it's just they start out. There's a audio sound system set up to where you hear the large crash. It's all put over the speakers, so they watch that in its entirety. And then at the end, there's a couple speakers, and one of the real impactful speakers happens to be somebody with the organization, Think First, who actually lived through a crash and has some physical disabilities now because of that. And he talks through what life was like before being involved, and then what it's like after his recovery and the things that he still struggles with. And it takes some real courage to get out there and speak of that stuff. But him and his mother both, I've had the opportunity to listen to them speak twice now at 2 different mock crashes, and that's where the students really pay attention, and it's a lot of moving parts and logistics to get it all put together. But at the end, I think it's one thing that they're really attentive to.
A worthwhile message, and dramatic by choice and for a reason, because it's a dramatic situation. And if you came out there and you kind of held their hands through it and made it so that it didn't feel that way, you don't leave with that message, that it doesn't impact you quite.
Yeah, and it goes right along with the organization Think First. This guest speaker was a passenger in a vehicle that was alcohol involved. He got in the vehicle knowing that the driver was impaired, and that was a result from being involved with an alcohol-related crash. At the end of the day, it's basically educating the life-altering, devastating facts of alcohol-impaired driving. And we hope to educate, and preventive measures. We always do it at prom season, and that's the overall goal.
And don't think you're invincible, as many high schoolers tend to do. And maybe I was probably one of those too. Many of us probably were. So again, I'm speaking with Chief Deputy Jim Baker of the Christian County Sheriff's Office. We talked the month of March, the activity that took place, and also the mock DUI crash held recently in Pana. We'll come back around. We'll talk more about Dispatchers Week, National Telecommunicators Week, and more when we return on WTIM, your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
This is Ashley Basso with People's Bank and Trust, where customers have one business banker who understands their business and provides the right financial services to achieve their financial goals. Your business banker is your single source for all your financial needs, from cash management to lines of credit, from mortgages to equipment loans, and everything in between. Call me at 888-PBT-1954. Bank with People's Bank and Trust so you can spend your time running your business, not explaining it. At People's Bank and Trust, we put people first. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Our local hospitals are the heartbeat of our communities, delivering critical care every hour of every day for everyone, training the next generation of caregivers. Beyond the walls, their benefit to the community is everywhere, driving the local economy and supporting local organizations, initiatives, and neighbors. Illinois Hospitals, healing communities. Learn more at team-iha.org. Sponsored by the Illinois Health and Hospital Association. Aired in cooperation with the Illinois Broadcasters Association and this station.
Seeing is believing, and your new customers can now hear and see your message. Deliver your message on our 6 Miller Media Group radio stations. And now, potential customers will see your message on our new 36 by 72-inch two-sided electronic sign installed in front of our Taylorville studios on Illinois Route 29. You have the opportunity of having your message seen by over 11,200 drivers a day. Contact your Miller Media Group account manager today and deliver your message through your potential customers' ears and eyes.
There's only one Central Illinois radio station that brings you the memories of the 60s and early 70s as you are cruising down the streets of your hometown. The dial position is 98.3 FM. The station is 98.3 WSVZ. From Macon to Vandalia and I-55 to I-57, cruising 98.3 plays the hits from early Elvis in the 60s Elvis to the British invasion of the Beatles, Herman's Hermits, and many more from the 1960s. Then we swing into the early half of the 1970s with artists like the Guess Who, the Doobie Brothers, and Elton John. Every song brings back something you remember about growing up. Set a button and crank up the station, playing good time rock and roll from the Tower of Power, cruising 98.3 WSVZ.
Pastor Brian Moore here from Locust Grove Church near Assumption. We are alive and so worth the drive. Find directions to our church and watch our video podcast by clicking our icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
With over 8 hours a day of agriculture programming weekdays and 2 hours on Saturdays, WTIM AM, FM, and online is your ag information station. Listen by tuning in on air or online and listen to WTIM Ag podcasts anytime.
Your information station, WTIM.
You're listening to WTIM, your information station, and our morning show brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman. Joining me in this segment is Chief Deputy Jim Baker of the Christian County Sheriff's Office. We've talked the month of March, and we've also talked about a mock DUI crash held recently in Pana. But there's also other big news surrounding the Christian County Sheriff's Office, one of which is your new move to 214 West Market Street. How's that gone so far for you, and what can you tell me?
It's good. We got the logistics out of the way and moved in, and everybody seems to like it. It's just getting the public trained on, hey, this is where we're at, and the two differences between the jail and the operations. We do have an open house on the 18th of Friday from noon till 4 for the public. It's open to the public to come view the new renovated office. Additionally, now in both locations, we've got drug boxes for any expired or unwanted medication. They're welcome to come in, no free of charge. The doors are open. Just pop in there, drop your drugs in the green metal box at both Market Street and the jail. So that's it's gone off without a hitch, and it's really helped in the operations. So
I feel like that's all you could ask for as
Yes.
far as smooth transition. And I
Yep.
know that, the additional space is going to be that biggest piece,
Yes.
especially too,
Yep.
for everything going on. And then correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like that call box was another big thing that was going to be outside of there.
Yes.
That we had talked about last time. I thought that was a really important piece too. To
Yes.
it.
Yeah. And it's just a lot of logistics to try and figure out, it's that building's obviously not occupied 24/7. It's alarmed. But then when somebody has, needs for calls of service, if they go to that building, they push the call box and dispatch is able to dispatch a deputy there. So,
And now that we're talking about dispatchers, no better way to segue into National Telecommunicators
Yep,
Week. I've
that's
seen a lot
great.
of your postings, and I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of different things supporting those. But how integral of a part are they truly?
Yeah, so basically it's National Telecommunicators Week. We was able to put that out on our app and Facebook, and it got a lot of attention from local restaurants, stuff like that, recognizing those folks that are working in that role. Obviously, for the guys working on the front lines there, I back it up. The first line of front lines is always the dispatcher. They take the call. They're always the voice the caller hears on the other end of the line at a bad time. They're trying to make everything from to calm them down, get vital information, maybe oftentimes providing life safety measures. Anything from CPR to bleeding, even childbirth. So it's a very stressful job, answering calls from everything from an active shooter to domestic violence, suicide, traumatic events, and it's pretty intensive. A lot of times you don't realize when you call the amount of training that even they have to go through. Law enforcement goes through a lot, but at the beginning of theirs, they spend a very stressful and intense training that lasts 6 months, up to 32 hours a week, to basically get certifications in different modules to know, when the caller comes in, what are they asking for? Then they check the module, and it's basically just a outline of make sure you do XYZ, get police and fire rolling. A lot of times those individuals are talking to a caller as well as multiple units on the road. So it's a very fast-paced, multi-skilled job that, very stressful. And if it wasn't for them, everything from the caller to the guys working the road, it's got to go off without a hitch. And those folks do a great job. So we'd really like to say thank you to all the dispatchers and 911 operators. And it's a great opportunity to recognize them for this week of Telecommunicator Week.
And that's why we're showing them love during National Telecommunicators Week. Well, joining me here on the morning show is Chief Deputy Jim Baker of the Christian County Sheriff's Office. Jim, thank you as always for joining me here. You are listening to WTIM, your information station, and our morning show brought to you by People's Bank and Trust and Landmark of Taylorville.
You'd hope to meet with and ultimately win the release of an imprisoned Salvadoran national recently deported from the U.S. About the